Thank you very much, Jess. And words from Temp there. You heard them kind of talking about how good Hook and Slasher were in that. Now, I'm just going to pose a question. I know it's early in Division B. But with the way EnVy's playing and the way Hook and Slasher have looked is like an SMG AR combo. Does it remind you a little bit of like what you saw from Rise Nation out of Methods and TJ when they really got into a groove and started dominating? Chance, what are your thoughts?
To a certain extent, yeah. Especially after the Search and Destroy game Hugh just had, like it was very TJ-like. But what I will say, because obviously they have a lot of Call of Duty left to be played, is that there's a decent number of teams that have that really good kind of stagnant AR that can put up numbers. Now, Slasher is definitely going to be in the top among them, or it seems that way so far, but there's no shortage of solid ARs. The thing that a lot of teams need is that like freak of nature, like submachine gun player. Like Kenny at the start was looking like one of the best players in the game, even if the ARs have better stats because it's a much more difficult role. But there's really only, it's a short list of guys with a sub who can put up numbers as well as they did, and obviously Hugh was that guy this series.
Any thoughts on that, Merc?
I just got to see 2 weeks of it. I got to see them play everybody. Okay. I want to see them go up against the likes of Luminosity, a full splice. I mean, their biggest win this week was against a phase roster, and we know that phase roster, well, you've seen sort of two forms of them. When they bring the certain hype and enthusiasm into a game, they're a very good team. But as soon as they, play LG, play Splice, play United, I'll love to see how Hook performs then.
Okay, all right. Well, quickly from you, Chance, we just saw the Hardpoint, one in which Slasher dominated. He hit, what, like a 14 streak in that? What was working for him?
Well, hey, you know how I said that like a lot of teams need the freak of nature sub? Well, Slasher was like, you know what, this game, I'll just do both. Because like half of his kills, it seemed like, did actually come with the PPSH. Now, there's a few kinks. I still think that EnVy has to work out for their Hardpoint game. Obviously, they're undefeated and things are looking great. But there's a situation where like it was the third hill the second time around where Moose like gets in the back into like back barn and he wastes like 3 players of EnVy's like 15 seconds worth of time and buys his team time to actually go inside the hill. And then they hold spawns, and then that same hill, like Moose picks up a huge 3-piece. So EnVy allows one guy, and they just waste so much time trying to find him and get the trade. So again, there's a handful of very detailed situations that EnVy could just perform a lot better, and then you turn that 250, 218 into 250, 150, and it's much more convincing. And then Slasher doesn't have to completely go off and go on a 14 streak, get your team the win. But they're putting up numbers. They look fantastic, undefeated in Hardpoint. They look good.
Yeah. I had to agree with you. I think one thing that's sort of interesting was if you looked at that box score, UNILAD, they had 101 points on Restaurant, which that is a ton, right? That is half their points in that hill. But if I'm EnVy, I don't know, maybe I'm thinking about the veto process because I feel like a lot of their St. Marie's come down to the wire. Maybe it's just that map in particular, but you have guys like Slasher. Maybe you tend to play at Arden Forest, Slasher and Temp on the ARs. Maybe that's something to switch up because you saw it yesterday once, they did win that map. Temp was very frustrated with their overall performance. Okay. It came on that map, and even that one was very close. They had to sort of have that comeback. Slasher really had to step up. So maybe St. Marie Dumont maybe is a Hardpoint pick that they may want to switch up.
Okay, well, interesting thought there. We'll see if they opt to do that here through the course of Division B. But now let's talk about Search a little bit. I do want to touch on UNILAD, but first I want to talk about EnVy just because of the interview with Temp. He mentioned they feel really good about CTF and Hardpoint, not as good in Search. What do you think is maybe going wrong for them in this particular game mode, Chance?
I mean, maybe it's just like a recency bias thing for me, but it really does seem like just the in-game adjustments is something they have to focus on because there's a lot of strategies in Search and Destroy that are very basic and baseline, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like LG, you could almost say exactly what they're going to do every round. They just execute like to perfection sort of thing. So the opening strats for EnVy are fine. I just think they don't play a lot of situations in-game correctly, and they don't respond to what the other team is doing. But overall, I mean, round 11 game, it's not like they're getting blown out. Hugh still has a great performance, but there's still room to grow.
And then this is kind of interesting for UNILAD, Joe. They have now had 3 series. They've won 1 map in each series. They've now won 1 CTF, 1 Hardpoint, and 1 Search and Destroy. So do you find that a little odd, maybe, if like you're just getting 1 map, but it's been in 3 different game modes?
I mean, I guess that shows that you're competitive in every single game type, and that's really been sort of the story for UNILAD. Competitive, but not getting the win. And it's a win here and a win there, but they have to put together a 3-4 game series if they want to compete against the best teams in the world. And this sort of reminds me of like Mind Freak or an era last week, where they were competitive. It's just going to take them some time to put some series together. Probably not the best week that they wanted, but I think they take this break, they watch VODs. Next week, they can be a very competitive team.
All right, well, we looked at our first 2. Map 3 is what I now call the Map 3 Massacre. This was, I mean, the final couple minutes here. Chance and I were watching in the back, and it was just a streak. That was one little awkward play where Moose did get through, made cut kind of behind Slasher and got a return, but the scheme of things didn't matter a whole lot, Chance.
Yeah, I mean, like from UNILAD's perspective, like they beat LG on this map, so you'd think they'd be competitive, and to their credit, it was for a while, but literally just the final 2 minutes of the game, like it was ridiculous what Slasher and Hugh were able to pull it off. I mean, I think my favorite moment of it all was literally we watched streaks, like 4 or 5 or 6 or however many it was from Slasher and Hugh. But then Classic calls in a fighter pilot, and he's like 8 and 10. Like, he has, like, nowhere near the amount of productivity that his two teammates, but, like, even he has streaks. Like, it was absurd.
Well, Joe, did you find it odd how the last couple minutes went? Because if it was like a 2-0 lead for Envy, and maybe I'd understand UNILAD kind of giving up down the stretch if they're about to get 3-0.
Yeah,
but
it's 1-0.
It's 1-0, and the series is 1-1. So, like, is Envy just turning into another gear there?
Yeah, it just seemed like as soon as they got them spawning back bridge, like Hook and Slasher just sort of took over, right? They didn't allow them to have any opportunity to leave their base, and then the streaks just came in. And that, again, Hook just had a massive performance, 2.73 overall, 30 kills on Arden 4 CTF. We typically don't see that very much. Typically, you're on like a 20-25. That's a pretty darn good map, but 30, that is an impressive stat line from Hook.
Yeah, no, that's completely nutty. And it's worth mentioning, like, we talk about teams a lot where, like, their streak usage isn't so great. It helps if you have 30 of them, because then, like, if you don't get it out of one glide bomb, you'll get it out of the next, or, oh no, we'll have to use 2 different fighter pilots. So, I mean, again, it's just, it was an insane stretch of final 2 minutes of gameplay. It was literally just the players weren't using their guns anymore.
It made me think of, what was it? I think it was the Optic TK Gibraltar Hardpoint in the final moment. Optic had like 7 streaks. They were just like bam, 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 over bridge, over and over and over again. They had like 2 clean 4Ks. It was just unbelievably dominating. That's what happens down the stretch when you do have all those streaks. But let's now hop into the final map here in the series. This is where Envy's going to close it out on London Docks. And Joe, you know, you heard them talking about how they feel good, feel better in Hardpoint here for Envy. What'd you like about the London Docks performance? Because both Hardpoints were kind of close, at least early on.
No, they were extremely close, right? I think right here, you know, it's 131 to 105, and then things sort of get really bad for UNILAD. And that's what we tend to see. Teams play a very close half, and as you can see, the score changes. It goes from 131 to 105 to 219 to 109. So Envy just broke everything wide open. You have Temp go on a big streak. I mean, again, it just felt like slaying was never a problem for this Envious roster. It just seemed like their teamwork, and you know, London Docks they seem very comfortable on. I feel like again, it just took time for Hook and Temp to really get back into the competitive setting, and you're finally seeing it here in stage 1.
Yeah, I mean, we knew it was going to come from Hook. We knew it was. It was just win was kind of the question. But now for you guys, like, I guess I want to know. I know it's 2 days in. I know it's kind of 3 matches, but how much has your stock risen on Envy?
I'll give him a slight bump. Wait, I know that sounds ridiculous to say.
For me, it's a big bump, but I can get that. I can get that.
Well, again, I only say slight bump because they were still like top 12, top 8, even when they were like quote-unquote underperforming. But again, as Merck pointed out earlier, they got a lot of top teams left to play. It's literally Splice, E-United, and LG that they have to come up against. So I'm most impressed, obviously, with their hardpoint consistency. That's like the perfect game for them to have as well. Like, we keep talking about Cuke and Slasher, and obviously they had great games, but like, even then, like, Temp got streaks that game, had 2 minutes in the hill. Classic also nearly 2 minutes in the hill. So that's, like, the ideal situation from Envy. It's like your 2 main slayers getting all the kills, don't have to worry about the hill at all. The other 2 guys can do the dirty work, and they did their job incredibly well. So the hardpoint game, massive improvements, I think, from what we've seen from them earlier in the year. So I'll give them a slight bump, but, like, their search and destroy is still a little bit hit or miss. Their CTF, either they have 2 minutes of sheer dominance or they look okay. So a lot left for them to prove.
All right, well, let's take a look.